Why, hello and welcome back to all of my friends, my fans, and yes, you, my fellow FTFLers, to the longest running weekly episodic fantasy football show out there. That's right, boys and girls, it is time once again for the FTFL weekly update, and as you know, I am not just the host of this award-winning show. Nah. I am not only the two-time league champion. Nah. I am also that voice that quietly reassures you that you are smart enough, that you are good enough, and that, gosh darn it, people like you. That's right, it is I, Brett Sieber, host of the FTFL Weekly Update, and boy, oh boy, it is great sitting down in the friendly confines of the FTFL studios. 2 weeks in the books. Some wild things have taken place now over the first 2 weeks, and of course, it's easy, I think, to overreact, and at the same time, like 2 down, 12 to go, if you don't start putting things in the win column, the season starts slipping and sliding away from you. That should not probably be the case for the one team that has led the league 2 consecutive weeks to start the season in scoring. Not entirely sure the last time that happened. I would think maybe there's someone watching that could figure this out for us. However, if he was too busy munching other things, that's fine. Anyways, that guy. There is another team, however, that played almost as good. 15-3 all play over 2 weeks. Yet, unlike the other team that won both games, this team has lost both games. The losses there piling up, as are the injuries to quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, J.J. McCarthy. Now you'll be like, whoa, Brett, time out. Joe Burrow, absolutely newsworthy. Brock Purdy, pretty solid quarterback. Are we really keeping tabs on the J.J. McCarthy status? We probably need to be, because this week, for one team, he started instead of Justin Herbert. Holy crap. Another nail-biter. A team that went down to the wire last week that won by 2 points. This week comes back and wins by just a half a point. What a game that was. Came down to Monday night. I know I mentioned after the draft recap, there were things we're going to keep track of this year. We were going to try to prove the existence of John Linkowitz, and as you now know, that ball is in motion. We were going to keep track of Peter's team. Started the season unlike any in FTFL history, and tonight I introduce to you the Peter meter. Now, before you get cute with that and start making up all sorts of jokes, it's a real thing, and it's really going to be on the show here later on. Last but not least, we will add another to the list. Now, I mentioned we're going to celebrate 10 years of the FTFL Weekly Update, and I did hear from some individuals that they were hoping for this segment or that segment. No fear. We got a lot of airtime to fill over the next, 3.5 months. We will get to some of your favorites, but tonight we will get to some of, I guess you can say, my not-so-favorites, because yes, we are adding another one to the list. And with that, to the games we go. The Pack Attack, and I think we're going to do this now every time this year. The Packers, let's be honest, they're looking pretty good. When we say the Pack Attack, we'll drink. Taking down the Radioactive Monkeys, 1-0 for Eric, 0-2. I got ahead of myself. 0-1 for Adam Saltmarsh, make that 0-2. Eric, 110. Adam, 93. Pretty solid showing for Saltmarsh, but not solid enough. And mind you, this is Eric's team, 110 points, with Josh Allen only scoring 4 points and Derrick Henry scoring 0. That's right. You heard that correctly. It wasn't a glitch in the production of the show, in the reception of your phone. No. Derrick Henry, 0 points. Now, for reference sake, Josh Allen last year averaged 21.4. The year before averaged 22 points. Derrick Henry last year averaged 14 points. The year before, 10 points. Insane. Low scores for these two individuals, and it didn't even matter because I used to be Peter's keeper, St. Brown. You know what? Let's try that again. Amon-Ra, I used to be Peter's keeper, St. Brown, had himself not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns on his way to a 30.5-point performance. Brandon Aubrey, my God, he is arguably the most valuable player in all of the league, let alone just to say, as far as kickers go. 23 points, including a 64-yarder to tie the game and send it to overtime. Free football for Eric. And believe it or not, it was partly that free football that doomed me. Javonte Williams with the Dallas Cowboys having himself a resurgence, if you will. Maybe going to be the running back the Broncos always thought they were going to get, but never fully could. 17 for him. Run CMC 15. I mentioned Allen and Henry having off days. Didn't matter. If you're Saltmarsh, Jonathan Taylor, I would say the somewhat kind of sort of forgotten Jonathan Taylor. Had some injuries over the last couple of seasons. Last season, second half of the year, he really came on strong, and he is continuing on. 21 for him. Quentin Johnston, the waiver wire darling of week 1, 15.5. DeAndre Swift, 11.5. Drake London, 3.5 points. He was Saltmarsh's only player under 6. So again, a very solid team effort for Adam Saltmarsh's team. However, in the end, it did not matter. Maybe Jalen Hurts only scoring 8 points hurt. You're not going to play even over Jalen Hurts, so I'm not even going to get Saltmarsh's bench. He falls 0-2. Eric marches to 2-0, or should I say the pack attack. All right, next up, Peter and the Valhalla Vandals coming in at 1-0, taking on Maycrim. Eric, great again at 0-1. And I think this week, scores are misleading for one, maybe more reality for the other. 83 for Sid, 63.5 for Peter. Both of these teams are teams that are in desperate need of help. I would actually say less so Peters, but boy, it's close. If you're Sid, the whole week revolved around Malik Neighbors, 30.5 points. You know what? Actually, I need to go back for a second. I actually said the man's name. Promise you, that won't happen again. Correction, the bum got 4 points for Eric. Anyways, let's proceed. 30.5 for Neighbors, 13.5 for T. Higgins, 10.5 for David the Bane of my existence, Montgomery. Sid's top 5 picks, 33 points. Last week, the top 5 picks got 27 points. He still is not getting the production from the front into that draft that he should. And oh, by the way, his first pick in the draft is now gone for 3 months. Bye-bye, Joe Burrow. Hello, Danny Dimes? That's right. Don't look now. Daniel Jones might have found himself a new home in Indy. And with Sid's team, we'll see if that is the straw that stirs the drink. If you're Peter, when I looked at this, I didn't know going into the game who your starting quarterback was. And I'm still trying to figure out just exactly why. Why would you start anyone other at quarterback than Justin Herbert when you have Justin Herbert? No, instead, you started J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy. What? 1 quarter does not make a quarterback. 1 quarter does not guarantee fantasy success. 1 quarter has me now thinking again that your ability to make decisions with regards to a fantasy football team moving in a positive direction, man. Deebo Samuel, 11.5. Alvin Kamara, 11. J.K. Dobbins, 10.5. Justin Herbert, 22 on the bench. Jamison Williams, 17 points on the bench. You don't have to look far to see how Peter could have won this game and gone to 2-0. 1-1 is actually maybe somewhat sort of a break for Peter. I think Sid moving to 1-1 is a bit of a break for him. These are two teams that I think as we get closer to the halfway point of the season are going to be below the Mason-Dixon line. They are going to be struggling to find themselves in the playoffs. I guess that's why we play the games. And the next game, I want to talk about Team Dickweed coming in at 1-0, taking on. I may suck at fantasy football, but at least I got my keepers in. And I got my keepers in, and I do not suck at fantasy football. Matt, after a tough loss last week, squeaks it out this week, 80-76 over John. If you're Matt, the first buzzsaw of the season, Jared Goff dropped not 10, not 20, not 30, but 40 points on Big John Linkowitz. Woo! The buzzsaw was that's more of like a dirt, but I don't know what that was. But you know what? Hopefully he chuckled just a little. Chris, I kicked the Boswell, had 12 points, and Jackson Smith-Njigba had 10. Matt had 5 players that were 5 points or lower. So honestly, the buzzsaw is what did it in for him, kind of like Neighbors and Sid. If you're John, Jaden Daniels, 18. Now he's a bit dinged up. Saquon Barkley, 13. 8.5 points on the bench. And I talked a little bit about Jaden Daniels and not being able to get out of harm's way on last week's update because, of course, it was filmed a little late. Curious to see what that does with his mobility, what that does for him going forward. If you're John, you fall to 1-1. If you're Matt, you rise to 1-1. And speaking of rise, all now should rise as we unveil the Peter meter. Fireball. All right, so I mentioned that we're going to go ahead and track Peter's team. And where are they this season? And I thought, well, I could talk about it. But I know for some of you, you're visual learners and you need that thing to look at. I get that. As an educator, everyone learns in different ways. And so for you, I have just that, a lovely visual. And here we are. Here it is, the Peter meter. Now, if you look close, you'll notice far over there on the right, that is the wrong end of the meter for Peter. That is straight dumpster fire. Now, on this end, that's where Peter would like to find himself. On this meter, that's fireball. Now, of course, you're like, okay, Brett, so where is he? And first and foremost, not just where is he on the line, but where is Peter? Well, guess what? Guess what? Oh, look, here he comes. Hi, folks, it's I, Peter. Ha, 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 ha. Woo, I'm going to dance around on my meter. All right, now, if you were looking at this last week, and actually I'm going to do some repositioning here kind of in front of me. We're going to slide Peter back into the slot. Wait, you know what? I would say to start the season before the draft, Peter was down here in dumpster fire land. No doubt, no way. This was the worst start to an FTFL season you could possibly imagine. No keepers, no first-round draft pick. And then last week, he beat the champ. So Peter rose on his meter, not quite to the halfway mark, but definitely out a ways after this week's loss and terrible management of the quarterback situation. Peter has found himself now feeling the flames of the dumpster fire. Not quite there, but definitely not headed in the right direction after 2 weeks. I guess we'll have to keep track of Peter's meter to see where he is next time. Fireball. All right, next game coming up on the list is Team Linkowitz, which, of course, you remember is Adam Swart, not John Linkowitz, coming in at 1-0, taking on, looking to take advantage of, looking to get after my hot spot at 0-1. And wouldn't you know it, why do I have my hotspot at 0-1? That seems wrong. He's 1-0. God, that's terrible. Who's doing the numbers around this joint? That's just awful. This was a battle of the undefeateds. Who would have thought? Jeff Markser, loser of 14 games last year. John Linkowitz, he of which may not even still be alive. Coming in both at 1-0. Jeff last week won by 2.5 points. This week squeaks it out by 0.5 point. That's right. The first 2 weeks of the season, Jeff has won games by a combined 3 points. Lamar Jackson will do that for you. 28 points, 13 points for the Baltimore defense. Chuba Hubbard, 12.5. CeeDee Lamb, 10.5 points. He is right now currently the 15th best receiver. Remember, he was involved in a preseason trade. I believe Jeff gave up a second-round pick. He could have had Puka Nacua, I think, for less. And just for reference, Puka is the second receiver in the league. But Jeff, you know what? You know fantasy football. You get things. So that Jeff gets that victory, 81.5. Of course, Linkowitz, Swart, 24.5 points from James Cook. Baker Mayfield, 18. Jake Elliott, 12. 5 players at 4.5 points or lower. Patrick Mahomes, 22 points on the bench. That would have made the difference. Swart falls to... God, I did it, didn't I? I said John. We need to keep a little tally on this sheet here. This is the Linkowitz counter. One time I messed this up. There it is. One time. Actually, here. Let's get the marker out so you can all see this. I screwed that up. I called Linkowitz, Linkowitz. Anyways, Swart falls to 1-1. Jeff rises to 2-0 and an early lead. Last year, Jeff was 2-0 and definitely a better looking 2-0 than this. However, the Cardiac King, I don't know if the heart's going to hold out much longer, as next week's opponent, you will see in just a moment, is one that brings a few more points to the table. Lastly, speaking of the team bringing points to the table, the Hulkamaniacs coming in 0-1, taking on the Mix and Cocktails at 0-1, a brother versus brother Fantasy Bowl rematch. It was closer than last one, yet I still come out on the losing end. 100 for Andy, 97.5 for me. Jamar Chase, 23 points for Jamar Chase this week after the abysmal start last week. Of course, what we need to now know is, sure, those points did come with Jake Browning. Is Browning going to be able to keep up that level, or are the receivers Chase and Higgins going to suffer, meaning Andy and Sid, respectively, are looking for other options? Dak and Devon A-Chain both had 18, Devontae Adams 15, Josh Jacobs 10, Bo Nix 22 points on Andy's bench. And I bring that up for a reason. Of course, last week he was my quarterback. I got antsy. I dropped Bo Nix. I picked up the incomparable Jordan Love of the Packers. It's not Pack Attack, but we'll count it. And then I said, all right, let's play him. Let's get him in there. Jordan Love, 16 points. Bo Nix, 22 points. Had I not got antsy, had I kept Nix, had I started him, I win this game. But I didn't. Now, Puka Nacua got me 22 points. Shamir, 13.5. Tyler Luke, 12 points. Bijan, 11.5. Etienne, 11. My stars are starring. I mean, sure, a few more points from Etienne, but when they're all scoring double digits. Now, the star that didn't, Cortland Sutton, half point. Juwan Jennings on the bench, 16.5. Do not know if he's going to play. Injuries, who knows? He's in the lineup as of right now, but we'll see. Another Points Palooza, a dominating loss, if you will, but a loss nonetheless. I fall to 0-2. Andy rises to 1-1. All right, the stud and the dud, and we're going to add the next thing to the list before we send it home. Start of the week, the buzzsaw, Jared Goff. That one's an easy one, 40 points. Dud of the week, Cortland Sutton, half point. He averaged just about 9 points a week last year. Where was that this week? You turd. Secondly, I want to say A.J. Brown. And you're like, you didn't even talk about him. I know, right? Because there wasn't any reason for me to talk about him. Over the first 2 weeks, he has a combined 3 points. Last year, at the end of the season, A.J. Brown was the 18th overall receiver. Right now, I had to go refresh the page 3 times to find one A.J. Brown currently residing in the 93rd wide receiver spot in the league. Was not a typo. 93rd. Whew, that's bad. Real bad. And some would say that maybe, the game plan wasn't in A.J. Brown's favor. Some would say that maybe he was up against a really, really good corner. Or some would say that, didn't have a lot of luck this week. And there we are. The L word. The word that I have railed against for years in fantasy football, because it doesn't ever seem to matter outside of that one January night in 2021 where I was dead to rights in the Fantasy Bowl with a 1-point lead with about a quarter and a half to go, and somehow, some way, I still, the sun shines on a dog's ass, you squeeze a piece of coal long enough and a diamond comes out. That one night, luck took a break for me. But every other time, it doesn't matter who's on my team. It doesn't matter how good I play. It doesn't matter how much I put into this. This season, I have a great team. A great team. A team that could be an elite team when it's all said and done. And yet, where am I after 2 weeks? That's right. I am still searching for victory numero uno on the season. That is why this week, not a player goes on the list, but just luck in general. Luck, you have never been on my side. I've heard it said, if I didn't have bad luck, or if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. And I'm telling you, I'm feeling every bit of that. So luck, you can take a hike and pound sand with the bum. Anyways, we've got games next week. Week 3, here we go. Pack Attack coming into 2-0, taking on I may suck at football, but at least I got my keepers in at 1-1. My hot spot coming in at 2-0, taking on the winless Hulkamaniacs at 0-2. I don't like my matchups this week, but I got to feel pretty good about the points I've been putting up to date. Valhalla, the Valhalla Vandals. By the way, I missed a Pack Attack reference. I missed quite a bit tonight. If there's a stat guy on the show, we would have all sorts to talk about. Valhalla coming in at 1-1, taking on the Mixing Cocktails at 1-1. The Radioactive Monkeys at 0-2, taking on Make America Great Again at 1-1. And last, but certainly not least, in the Who's Bowl, or Who's Who Bowl, kind of that Spider-Man meme pointing at each other here. Team Dickweed at 1-1, taking on Team Linkowitz at 1-1. That'll do it for the show this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being awesome. And until next time, peace. Yeah, John Linkowitz, buddy. Here we come, baby. Because I'm on fireball. I said, we're bringing it, we're taking it, we're taking it, we're taking it down. We're taking it, we're taking it, we're taking it down. We're taking it, we're taking it, we're taking it down. We're bringing it, we're bringing it, we're bringing it back. Woo! We're bringing it, we're bringing it, we're bringing it back. Hey, we're bringing it, we're bringing it, we're bringing it back. We're bringing John Linkowitz back because he's on fireball.